It's actually really frightening that we are willing to put aside true, high quality, hard money, okay? We're willing to put that aside for a fucking bullshit narrative that has to do with power and control. Excuse my swearing, but that's really what it is.
There's a clear battle in DC happening, okay? We have the Huffman letter, we have a letter from Senator Cynthia Lummis, and just refresher, we have a troubling pattern developing that worldwide, not only in the United States, in Norway and Europe, the majority of Bitcoin's environmental attacks have come from left-wing parties. And the right-wing parties, whether you like this or not, and again, it's not black and white to be specific, have been the most accepting. So what troubles me is that Bitcoin is the most inclusive monetary network the world has ever seen, which I know is something very important to the left-wing parties, right? It's about helping the underprivileged, right? The unbanked. It's about equality, inclusivity, right? Bitcoin is the most equal, inclusive monetary network the world has ever seen, especially if you live in Cuba, in Venezuela, in Argentina. If you're attacking Bitcoin mining, you're attacking Bitcoin. So it's a very troubling development, and I don't know what to think of it, and I'm not going to come to any conclusions as of yet. Phil, what are your thoughts on this troubling development, man? For me, it's a heartbreaker, dude. It's really a heartbreaker. I really fundamentally believe Bitcoin is bipartisan. It should be embraced by both parties because it helps everybody. Why do you think this is happening, my friend? And then we'll pass it on to Texas Slim.
So you know what? I'm definitely concerned about this, and I'll tell you why. Because these politicians that are very quote unquote worried about the environment, worried about the toll of the energy grid. I know that they do get funding from a lot of large corporations, and I know that they're really spending a lot of time digging into the nuance of Bitcoin's energy use, and it pains me to think that they're not doing the same amount of research into every single company that is handing them money for their parties and for the elections. I just wonder, I mean, you'd think that some of them are maybe worried about all the energy that possibly Apple uses, that Nvidia uses. I mean, these things matter. What about food producers, right? I mean, we've got Texas Slim here, I'm sure that he can speak to the fact of how much energy is being used and how much of that energy is hydroelectric energy to produce food. So I find it incredibly hypocritical and psychotic that we are putting Bitcoin under this microscope for its energy usage, and the people that are doing this are also at the same time backhandedly taking money from corporations which do not give a shit about the environment, do not really care about the energy usage. That's my first point about this. The second point about this is that, you know what, it's exactly what you said about being apolitical. Bitcoin, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, Bitcoin truly is apolitical. We've said this before, and we're not just saying this as like a moniker, or as a slogan. Bitcoin truly is the money of enemies, okay? I can't stop you from earning Bitcoin, okay? I can't do that. You can earn Bitcoin, you can spend Bitcoin, you can choose to send it to whoever you want, you can fund whoever you want with it, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. If I'm friends with the owner of a bank or something like that, I can't get them to censor your transactions. I can't get them to do any of that stuff. But in a fiat world, I can do that. So it's actually really frightening that we are willing to put aside true, high quality, hard money, okay? We're willing to put that aside for a fucking bullshit narrative that has to do with power and control. Excuse my swearing, but that's really what it is. Like, it's so pitiful and pathetic, and it just goes to show the type of overall, it's going to sound corny, low vibe that we humans are, because we are willing to piss away all of our futures, which has already happened to us. We are, right? We are the future from yesterday, and we are suffering through the poor decision making from 1971. Okay. That's 50 years ago, 51 years ago. We're still suffering from this. What do you think is going to happen to your kids, our kids? What do you think is going to happen to them if we continue this idiotic, stupid dance for power and control? Where do you think it leads? Look at what what we're talking about today. When I was a kid, I never imagined that we would be talking about social credit scores. I never imagined that somebody's life could be governed by freaking green, yellow, red colors on a piece of paper or in an app. This is nonsense. This is insane. It's made up bullshit. Yep. And every single one of us, well, not every one of us, but for the most part, are completely brainwashed by this stupidity. And you know what? I think that the people who have the stage, especially these politicians, all of these politicians, anyone who has this space, it is their duty to explain these things and to be objective and to say, you know what? This isn't the way that we should be living. We need to change this. It's not about power and control. We need to actually be better. We actually need to be better, not just have some stupid slogan where you put everyone into a cell and have them eating sludge, right? But then you just post on top with a rainbow, build back better. That's not how this works.
Dude, it's absolutely crazy. Phil went on an eco rant just now. I'm still kind of shocked. I've never heard Phil go off like that. Super passionate. So now that I have Texas Slim right here, Phil, you killed it. I'm actually going to double back to what we were covering about, because this is all, look, ESG, this environmental, it's all related. It's all the same thing. It's an attack vector on Bitcoin. I'm going to show Texas Slim what we covered earlier on the show, and it relates to what we just covered just now. ESG has officially collapsed its first economy. Sri Lanka hastily pivoted away from essential fertilizer in the name of ESG and watched its crop yields plummet. Texas Slim, I know you've been covering this tremendously and you've done an incredible job. What are they doing? Because this is, look, you control energy, you control food, it's all encompassing. It's about power and control. I don't know if, to give them the benefit of the doubt and to be neutral, I don't know if those letters by Democratic senators and Democratic congressmen and women has to do with power and control. I would like to remain on the fence with that, but the ESG stuff definitely has to do with power and control. And I suspect that the letters from the Democratic congressmen and women have to do with power and the control, but I don't know that 100% for sure as of yet. So Texas Slim, what are they doing to our food? What are they doing to fertilizers? What's all this about?
Well, if you look at food and how we've basically turned into a one world global food group, basically, we've had over, 4 major global consolidations of our food industries since 1995, basically. What people don't understand and what I've been trying to signal out is all these contracts have been signed. Global contracts are moving forward, and we're talking about politicians that are basically kind of covering their ass in a big playground here, in a big audience, to where they can, I would say that what people don't understand, there's a major food industry shift that's going across the world right now. The manipulations that you see within fertilizer, the manipulations that you see against the cow itself. Cow is now a carbon hazard. Phil brought up, hey, we're going to be judged by a social credit score. Well, let's put the ESG into that. The cow being a carbon hazard is going to identify you as a bad citizen in the long run. That's their intentions. And the reason they do this is, what is the source of the seed of their intentions? Well, who was it? Kissinger? You control the food, you control the world. People forget, in the Bitcoin space, in the fiat space, whatever you want to look at, the money comes separately. What is the most important thing that you can control humans on is their consumption models. And with our food industry since 1971, we've become very complacent with our consumption. We strive for convenience and we strive for basically, make sure it tastes good. The marketing laws within our food have been so manipulated and are so corrupt. It says heart healthy, then people think that they're being a good citizen. And so if you don't know what food is, then you're basically going to be trapped in a consumption model that is going to judge you in the long run. This is moving forward, and they're going to attack food in ways that nobody's really going to be able to combat unless they create a new consumer demand in a different direction. This is part of the ESG. Why not use food as a weapon? And to look at these politicians and to understand about energy, they don't have a chance or a choice really anymore. What's going to happen is, in the long run, there's going to be two classes of people that basically have two different types of consumption models. And in the Bitcoin industry, we need need to really understand that this is something that is the best opportunity of our lifetime to get Bitcoin into the conversation, associate it with food, create a new consumer demand, because they've destroyed the soil. They've destroyed our nutrition. We are nutritionally starved as a nation right now. And if you look at history of time, you look at societies that have fallen, you're looking at nations that have gone away, you've looked at wars that are won. They don't win it by weapons, they win it with food. And you want to control everybody out there, quit eating for 2 days, see what happens to you. And people are so complacent with how they eat, how they basically, their market access has been choked in a way that they don't know. I've been on the road for 24 days now. A lot of feedback I've been getting is that food comes from the supermarket. And if you look at that, I'll give you an example. Catfish in the state of Texas, it might be spawned in Texas. Well, it gets to a certain size, that catfish gets shipped to China. Then they feed it some subsidized sludge. That catfish grows, they ship it back to the United States, and then it's sold in Texas. And so you look at the energy consumption that you brought up earlier. The energy consumption based around the industrial food complex is so freaking out of touch with reality, and it makes people out of touch with reality of food. And so why not be able to label the cow as a carbon hazard? Because the cow gives you heart attacks, cow gives cholesterol, the fat addiction, everything that's happened after 1971, they know they have us. And so what they're going to do is they're going to create this food industrial shift. It'll be the 5th major consolidation of a global food group. And I've got my Substack talks about all of this. This is moving forward. It's not going to stop. And the fertilizer, the farmers, the chemical companies, the ranchers, if you're underneath that umbrella, you're going to go along with. If you're a politician, you're going to go along with the legislation that says this is what's going on within the government. These are the global corporate contracts that have been signed. There's no stopping this. We can circumvent around it. It's not going to be 100%, but that's why I started the Beef Initiative, to where people will start looking at their consumption models and they'll change the way they look at food, because we have to do that.
It's not about stopping the great set.
Yeah.
It's about opting out of it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin stands in the way of you and them, and that's why they absolutely hate it. And that's why they're attacking energy the way they are. If you control energy, if you control food, you control people. Bitcoin is a way to opt out. It's driving them crazy. That's why they're attacking it.